Good morning, sixth graders. As you can see, and we've already talked about today, you're going to need your springboard book, your social studies book, your notebooks, and your Boy of the Painted Cave book. So this right here, hold on. We did in class today in our Zoom, so that should be completed now. Our book talk today is Divergent by Veronica Roth. It's right here. So this is science fiction. It's a dystopian book, meaning it's set in the future. And it's basically like this future setting where everybody is put into 5 different categories. And then this one girl, and they all have like certain traits about them. Like one is for people who are brave. One is for people who are super smart. One's for people who are peaceful. And so this girl in this book is divergent, which is kind of like really frowned upon and things like that. I mean, she's kind of dangerous. And divergent means she's in between, or she's in multiple different, I keep wanting to say houses, but this is not Harry Potter. Multiple different, I forgot what it's called in the book. I read it a long time ago, but it's really good. There are actually 4 in the series. It was a trilogy for a long time, and then they added another one. So it's Hunger Games-ish, like it's similar to that in the sense that it is set in the future. It's science fiction. It's a whole different world, but people are pretty much the same. Lots of backstabbing and alliances and things like that. So highly recommend this. It's a really good book. If you would like to check it out, please email me. All right, so let's take a look at what we are doing today. We are going to read The Jacket again. This time we're going to be looking for different things. Yesterday we were looking for similes and metaphors. So today we're going to be reading The Jacket. We're going to be thinking about a summary. We're going to be thinking about the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. So we're going to go ahead and listen to that. And when you're listening, I kind of want you just to be thinking about the beginning and the middle of the end. If you want to take your pencil and make notes or make a line dividing the parts that you think are the beginning, the middle, and the end, you can go ahead and do that. We are on page 28 in your textbooks, your springboard books. So go ahead and turn to page 28. And again, as we read, we are looking for the beginning, the middle, and the end. All right. The Jacket by Gary Soto. Okay, sorry, I'm about to yawn. Okay, my clothes have failed me. I remember the green coat that I wore in 5th and 6th grades when you either dance like a champ or press yourself against a greasy wall, bitter as a penny toward the happy couples. When I needed a new jacket and my mom asked what kind I wanted, I described something like bikers wear, black leather and silver studs with enough belts to hold down a small town. We were in the kitchen, steam on the window from her cooking. She listened so long while stirring dinner that I thought she understood for sure the kind I wanted. The next day, when I got home from school, I discovered, draped on my bedpost, a jacket the color of day-old guacamole. I threw my books on the bed and approached the jacket slowly, as if it were a stranger whose hand I had to shake. I touched the vinyl sleeve and peeked at the mustard-colored lining. From the kitchen, Mother yelled that my jacket was in the closet. I closed the door to her voice and pulled at the rack of clothes in the closet, hoping the jacket on the bedpost wasn't for me, but my mean brother. No luck. I gave up. From my bed, I stared at the jacket. I wanted to cry because it was so ugly and so big that I knew I'd have to wear it a long time. I was a small kid, thin as a young tree, and it would be years before I'd have a new one. I stared at the jacket like an enemy, thinking bad things before I took off my old jacket, whose sleeves climbed halfway to my elbow. I put the big jacket on. I zipped it up and down several times and rolled the cuffs so they didn't cover my hands. I put my hands in the pockets and flapped the jacket like a bird's wings. I stood in front of the mirror, full face, thin profile, then looked over my shoulder as if someone had called me. I sat on the bed, stood against the bed, and combed my hair to see what I would look like doing something natural. I looked ugly. I threw it on my brother's bed and looked at it for a long time before I slipped it on and went out to the backyard smiling a thank you to my mom as I passed her in the kitchen. With my hands in my pockets, I kicked a ball against the fence, then climbed it to sit into looking into the alley. I hurled orange peels at the mouth of an open garbage can, and when the peels were gone, I watched the white puffs of my breath thin to nothing. I jumped down, hands in my pockets, and in the backyard on my knees, I teased my dog Brownie by swooping my arms while making bird calls. He jumped at me and missed. He jumped again and again until a tooth sunk deep, ripping an L-shaped tear on my left sleeve. I pushed Brownie away to study the tear as I would a cut on my arm. There was no blood, only a few loose pieces of fuzz. Damn dog, I thought, and pushed him away hard when he tried to bite again. I got up from my knees and went to my bedroom to sit with my jacket on my lap, the lights out. This was the first afternoon with my new jacket. The next day I wore it to 6th grade and got a D on a math quiz. During the morning recess, Frankie T, the playground terrorist, pushed me to the ground and told me to stay there until recess was over. My best friend, Steve Negrette, ate an apple while looking at me, and the girls turned away to whisper on the monkey bars. The teachers were no help. They looked my way and talked about how foolish I looked in my new jacket. I saw their heads bob with laughter, their hands half covering their mouths. Even though it was cold, I took off the jacket during lunch and played kickball in a thin shirt, my arms feeling like Braille from Goosebumps. But when I returned to class, I slipped the jacket on and shivered until I was warm. I sat on my hands, heating them up, while my teeth chattered like a cup of crooked dice. Finally warm, I slid out of the jacket and put it back on a few minutes later when the fire bell rang. We paraded out into the yard where we, the 6th graders, walked past all the other grades to stand against the back fence. Everybody saw me. Although they didn't say out loud, "Man, that's ugly," I heard the buzz of gossip and even laughter that I knew was meant for me. And so I went in my guacamole-colored jacket, so embarrassed, so hurt, I couldn't even do my homework. I received C's on quizzes and forgot the state capitals and the rivers of South America, our friendly neighbor. Even the girls who had been friendly blew away like loose flowers to follow the boys in the neat jackets. I wore that thing for 3 years until the sleeves grew short and my forearms stuck out like the necks of turtles. All during that time, no love came to me, no little dark girl in a Sunday dress she wore on Monday. At lunchtime, I stayed with the ugly boys who leaned against the chain link fence and looked around with propellers of grass spinning in our mouths. We saw girls walk by alone, saw couples hand in hand, their hands like bookends pressing air together. We saw them and spun our propellers so fast, our faces were a blur. I blame the jacket for those bad years. I blame my mother for her bad taste and her cheap ways. It was a sad time for the heart. With a friend, I spent my 6th grade year in a tree in an alley, waiting for something good to happen to me in that jacket, which had become the ugly brother who tagged along wherever I went. And it was about that time that I began to grow. My chest puffed up with muscle, and strangely, a few more ribs. Even my hands, those fleshy hammers, showed bravery through the cuffs, the fingers already hardening for the coming fights. But the L-shaped rip on the left sleeve got bigger. Bits of stuffing coughed out from its wound after a hard day of play. I finally scotch-taped it closed, but in rain or cold weather, the tape peeled off like a scab and more stuffing fell out until the sleeve shriveled into a palsied arm. That winter, the elbows began to crack and whole chunks of green began to fall off. I showed the cracks to my mother, who always seemed to be at the stove with steamed up glasses, and she said there were children in Mexico who would love that jacket. I told her that this was America and yelled that Debbie, my sister, didn't have a jacket like mine. I ran outside, ready to cry, and climbed the tree by the alley to think bad thoughts and watch my breath puff white and disappear. But whole pieces still casually flew off my jacket when I played hard, read quietly, or took vicious spelling tests at school. When it became so spotted that my brother began to call me camouflage, I flung it over the fence into the alley. Later, however, I swiped the jacket off the ground and went inside to drape it across my lap and mope. I was called to dinner. The steam slivered my mother's glasses as she said grace. My brother and sister, with their heads bowed, made ugly faces at their glasses of powdered milk. I gagged too, but eagerly ate big rips of buttered tortilla that held scooped up beans. Finally, I went outside with my jacket across my arm. It was a cold sky. The faces of clouds were piled up, hurting. I climbed the fence, jumping down with a grunt. I stared up the alley and soon slipped into my jacket, the green, ugly brother who breathed over my shoulder that day and ever since. Okay. So in your Springboard books, you're going to answer questions 3 and 4. Yesterday, you answered questions 1 and 2. So today, the questions are: to show his hatred of the jacket, Soto exaggerates the effect of the jacket on his life. List some effects of the jacket by copying phrases directly from the story. So what does he say? And he says it in the beginning and as the story goes on. What does he think is the curse of the jacket? What has this jacket done to him? So find snippets from the book to show that. And then the next one, paragraphs 7, 8, and 9 have especially vivid examples of similes that describe how the narrator is feeling. Underline the examples, and you may have already gotten these, but go back and underline them, look for more, and choose one that you consider especially vivid. Rewrite it and explain its effect. So you're going to write down the simile and explain the image that it gives you or the effect of the writing on you. Okay, so go ahead and push pause on me and do those things. We will now, after you push pause, we'll be going into social studies. All right, so in social studies today, we are going to continue with the Agricultural Revolution slideshow. In your textbooks, it's page 28 and 29, okay? So take some time later, maybe this afternoon, if you don't have time this morning, to read those pages to better understand the Agricultural Revolution, okay? Oops, and so there it is. And this is talking about how civilizations begin to emerge within because of the Agricultural Revolution. So remember, the people don't need to move all the time following their food. They're no longer nomads. They are starting to build civilizations. This is kind of hard to read, so I apologize for that, and we'll watch the video in a second. But this is the Neolithic Revolution. So this is during the Neolithic age, there was a revolution. Revolution usually means a violent uprising against the government, but in this case, revolution deals with changing how we live. And a lot of times throughout history, when they talk about a certain time period, they call it a revolution, and it's just like a change in time. So the Neolithic Revolution was a shift from hunters and gatherers to a system of keeping and raising animals and growing food on a regular basis. So it's basically like the Agricultural Revolution. And this new system is called systematic agriculture. And systematic means there's just a certain way of doing it, and there's a purpose, and it's a system, okay? It's an organized thing. So here is the video that we are going to watch. Okay, or not. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, so maybe we'll watch it tomorrow. I need to find out which one it is. Sorry, so I need to research that a little bit better. Sorry about that. You can read about the Neolithic Revolution, though, in your books. Okay, so the next one. What characteristics did early civilizations share? Okay, and water is life. So, the first villages began near water for many reasons. Being near water has always been throughout history a game changer and that's like prime property. Okay, so the first villages began near water for many reasons, such as irrigation, watering their plants. They didn't have to carry water super far. Fishing, trade. And trade can be like they could use the water to get to different places to trade with other civilizations. Okay, so their cities and governments were always near water. Then their religion, new civilizations developed religion to help people explain their lives. They believed that gods were important to their survival. Okay, so the early civilizations all had religion, and a lot of times they were different religions. Early societies were organized into groups or social class structure. We see that a little bit in The Boy the Painted Cave. Tao can't become a cave painter because he is not a chosen one. So there are people that are leaders and chosen ones, and people that are not. Okay, and then writing and art. So writing was invented to pass information to the people, and art was used for entertainment and cultural expression. So in Tao's time, the art was used to tell a story, but as that evolved into writing, it was more used for entertainment and cultural expression. Okay. Okay, these are the Natufians, and for some reason that word is just super fun to say. You should say it right now, Natufians. They're the first known ancient group of people who began settling down and harvesting grains. Okay, so hopefully this video is going to work, this video about the Natufians.
When I first saw this product, I thought it looked kind of crazy. Didn't really understand what the benefits would be, but I had seen some before and after pictures.
Okay. This video is longer, so
it's the end of the last ice age. Our ancestors have survived this freezing desolation for 25,000 years. They are hunter-gatherers. They travel light, their children with them, one meal away from starvation. They are never able to settle down. But these nomads are about to change the world. Their Stone Age revolution will make our civilization possible. They will set humanity on the long journey to the modern world. Around 15,000 years ago, the climate began to change. The glaciers melted, and with water, the world came back to life. One of the best places for humans to live now was an area of the Middle East we called the Fertile Crescent, from Israel to Iraq. The hills were dotted with trees, which spread quickly as the weather improved. The open woodlands were like a garden, supporting a new range of edible plants. Animals flourished on the uplands and fertile plains. It was a hunter-gatherer's paradise. It was here that travelling bands found something completely new, which would change humanity forever. discovered a huge family of plants, the grasses. It was a vast supply of grain. This was the spark which would make human progress possible. The evidence is scattered in valleys across the Fertile Crescent. These people left no recorded language or stories. All the archaeologists can do is dig. In the 1920s, the first great woman archaeologist, Dorothy Garrett, carried out excavations around Mount Carmel in Israel. She was looking in caves she thought had been used 50,000 years earlier. Instead, she unearthed the body of a man buried around 12,000 years ago. He was curled up, wearing a beautifully crafted headband decorated with pipe-like seashell. It was so distinctive, Garrett believed she had discovered a new people. She named them the Natufians. As she kept digging, she found something researchers had never seen before. It was a tool with a bone handle. It held a line of sharp flint blades. They were coated with a shiny residue, traces of a wild grass, an ancient form of wheat. It was a sickle, a tool designed especially for cutting grass. So Dorothy Garrett knew the Natufians were collecting the new grass foods in large quantities. At the same time each year, these ancient people would have found the ripening grass in huge areas. Many of them were not edible, but they managed to select all the useful species. Now they had barley and wheat. But they were travellers, working together in small family groups. They had to carry everything they harvested. This burden would ultimately change their way of life. Today, the land of the Natufians is drier and hotter. The past is waiting to be discovered just beneath a forbidding surface. Here, at Wadi Hamma, in northern Jordan, the Natufians left minute traces of their lives. Archaeologist Philip Edwards has found evidence that these nomads had everything they needed in one place.
They're well placed here. They're on water and they are positioned between the lowlands of the Jordan Valley and the uplands of the Mediterranean hills behind. In fact, the Jordan Valley, when the Natufian people were here, was filled by a lake, Lake Lazan, which extended right up and right past the scene here. And looking over that, we would see, if it was a clearer day, Mount Carmel peeping out on the coast, the site where the Natufian was discovered originally by Dorothy Garrett.
Archaeologists estimate there were no more than 1,000 families living in the whole of Israel and Jordan at the time. There was enough grain to feed them well, and it was all growing wild.
Now, archaeologists have experimented in harvesting wild cereals in their natural area in the Middle East. And what they found is that one person harvesting for a period of about 3 weeks can produce enough food to feed a family of 4 for a whole year.
These ancient grasses are the forerunners of modern crops. The grains discovered by the Natufians still feed more than half the world's population today. Of all the things they ate, grain was unique in one vital way. It did not decay. Keep it dry, and it lasts for decades. For the first time, they had food they could rely on for long periods of time. Now, they needed to store their grain. There was a reason to stay in one place. This was the first time in the Middle East we know people built shelters to last from year to year. And they remained here from generation to generation down the centuries. They chose their sites carefully. Many had low stone walls. Their remains can be found all.
Okay, let me leave that area. All right, so that is that. And if you are really interested in I can't even talk, the Natufians or other people in that time period, then I encourage you to watch. There's tons of videos out there. Okay, so there's lots and lots to find. Okay, so this next one, hold on. This is kind of what we're going to be doing tomorrow, like a Venn diagram. Here is another video about the Neolithic Revolution. I'm going to let you watch that on your own. So we're not going to do that right now because you don't need to watch it right here. It is in your slide deck, so it's right there. You can find the slide deck in your weekly planner. Boy in the Painted Cave. I am actually, I think, going to read this tomorrow. Let me see, because I'm afraid this video is going to be too long and it's going to take a long time to upload. So I'm going to, not tomorrow. I'm going to do it today, but I'm going to upload it on its own thing. So that will be in your weekly planner too, in the Thursday column, Boy the Painted Cave, chapter 13. And then after that, you will go ahead and answer the chapter 13 questions notice. But I need to wrap this video up. Just that one time it was super long. It got a little hairy. So anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Tomorrow's Friday. Yay. I will see you later. Bye.